Joining us now, he is a counselor to the President of the United States. He's also the chief counsel for the American Center for Law and Justice, Jay Sekulow. I said back in March of last year that all of this was happening. We got the first signs that the FISA warrant was issued against the Trump campaign. It's all turned out to be true and worse than I ever imagined.
So let me give you a timeline that I think is really important for people to understand. I've gone back and retraced the timeline. So here's the report. In the summer of 2016, the FBI and Department of Justice evidently sought a FISA warrant, and it was denied. They weren't able to get it. They came back then. The dossier was compiled in June of 2016. That's the earliest dated report of the actual dossier. They then sought a FISA warrant again on October 21st, 2016. It was signed by Comey and then the Deputy Attorney General of the United States, Yates. And at that point, the FISA warrants obtained. Now, you got to understand, so the FISA warrants obtained based on the evidence contained in the Steele dossier. And also this, the Yahoo report to Michael Itzkoff, which we find out now, as you just said, Sean, is actually the same information just being regurgitated. But then here's the interesting fact. Then you go to January after Donald Trump is now the president-elect, and I think that's important to understand. And what happens at that point on January 6, 2017, there's a meeting with the president and James Comey where Comey thought about, and he testified to this later, that he told him about this dossier. He told him that he was not under investigation, but he thought that he owed the president an explanation for this. He didn't want a J. Edgar Hoover type situation, didn't want him to think I was briefing him on this sort of thing to hang it over him in some way. I was briefing him on it because we had been told by the media it was about to launch. We didn't want to be keeping that from him. But again, my reading of it was that it was important for him to share it. He did say that it was salacious and unverified. Here's the falsity of that. 6 weeks before that, or 8 weeks before that, he used that dossier to get a warrant. I mean, I want everybody to understand that.
So James Comey lied.
The President of the United States, that this is a salacious, unverified. We want you to know what's out there. We're not investigating you. You're not under investigation based on this. We just want you to know what's out there. I don't want to be J. Edgar Hoover. It's just out there. But it's not. We're not investigating you. 7 or 8 weeks before, you could take exactly to October 26th, 21st, they got a FISA warrant based on that dossier that they told the president is unverified and salacious. But you know who they didn't tell it was unverified and salacious? The FISA court judge.
That means it was obtained under false pretenses. That, to me, would be a crime. Now, we spoke earlier with Greg Jarrett. He's identified 18 U.S.C. 242 in terms of abuse of power. What crimes would you be looking at if you were examining this on the other side?
Well, the first thing is the inconsistent lying to it. Well, I understand what Greg's saying. He's right. But a false statement to a federal court judge, the basis of a FISA's look, there's a lot of libertarians do not like FISA. I happen to be in favor of the FISA process. I don't like it abused, and this clearly was. But it hurts our argument that we need FISA when this nonsense is going on. So you look at the false statements that were made to the Department of Justice and the FBI. And by the way, it was renewed multiple times. I mean, we need to understand that. Second warrant renewal, April 19th, 2017. The first warrant renewal, January 19th, 2017, a day before the president sworn into office. Then it's renewed again, July 18th of last year. Andrew McCabe and Rosenstein. Then you have... But
Rod Rosenstein is the guy that appoints the special counsel. I mean, is there any conflict there?
Look, I'm not going to opine on whether there's conflict or not. I will tell you what there is. Here's the problem. The problem for the Department of Justice is, and again, this is not against the line agents, and I'm not talking about a deep state, because this is not deep. This is right at the top. Here's the problem. The entire basis upon which all of this opened up was a false report. That they sought and obtained a FISA warrant for a Russia investigation and a counterintelligence investigation. And they acknowledged in its, and it's in the Nunez report, that, number one, McCabe says that without it, they wouldn't have even sought the warrant. Not that they would not have gotten the warrant, obtained the warrant, but they would have not sought the warrant. That's number one. Number two, that in the process of doing that, there was a leak by Christopher Steele, and they terminated his relationship formally, but yet Bruce Orr, the number four at the Department of Justice, whose wife's over at Fusion GPS working on what? The Russia Steele dossier. Look, I understand the left is trying to change terms, but here's what I want to say to my friends that are left of center, libertarian, and look, and I've got a lot of sympathies on the libertarian side of this, and I'm always concerned about government oversight overstepping its bounds. My goodness, it was the ACLJ that brought the IRS cases. But here's what I want to say. How can you have trust in a system that allowed this to happen? And I don't care if you're a Republican, Democrat, whoever you are. How can you trust a system that allowed this to happen? And that's why I said you need a special counsel, all right, to investigate this.
Let me go through this a little more carefully, and because there's an awful lot of rigging going on here, and some of which isn't discussed in the memo. At any point, you could tell me that I'm wrong. If you believe Donna Brazile, she made the most painful call in her life when she had to call Bernie Sanders and say that the primary election with Hillary was rigged. Okay, nobody seems to care about that issue. If I was a Bernie supporter, I'd be pretty pissed off. Then we have James Comey and Andrew McCabe and Peter Strzok and Lisa Page and maybe even Loretta Lynch, all involved in exonerating Hillary Clinton before they ever investigated her, months, as a matter of fact, before they're writing an exoneration letter, before they ever even interview her or the principals in the case. And that has to do with her mishandling of classified, top secret, special access program information, destroying such, deleting 33,000 emails, acid wash of the hard drives, and then, of course, breaking up devices. So there were crimes committed, but the fix was in my opinion. You don't need to weigh in on that. Then you have, imagine if Donald Trump paid for a salacious dossier on Hillary Clinton full of lies and propaganda, and that same dossier, that would have been designed to manipulate the American people in an election year. That's bad enough in my mind. We know politicians lie all the time, but using a phony dossier to lie takes it up another notch or two. But then also that becomes the basis of a warrant to spy on Hillary Clinton in the midst of a political campaign, and if she won, then spy on her incoming administration. Imagine if all of that happened in reverse, Jay Sekulow. What would the reaction in the media in the country be, and the Democratic Party be?
The exact opposite of what that media reaction right now is. Here's what they're doing on the other networks. They're trying to not really talk about the substance of what has transpired here, but rather the Democrats haven't gotten out their side of the story. But here's what I say. Let's just look at what is... The dossier was utilized for a FISA warrant. Everybody, right, left, and center, that is not the way you run an investigation in a constitutional republic. That's just not the way it works. And I think that the real danger in all of this is that we've unleashed, if you will, a tidal wave of civil liberties violations by this, a tidal wave of a misuse and abuse of a process. And in that process, my goodness, they made a false statement to a federal court judge.
What are the penalties for that?
Jail.
We'll take a break. Jay Sekulow is with us, the American Center for Law and Justice. He's the chief counsel, also counselor to the president. We'll get more of his thoughts on what should what should happen from this point. We'll have more on the memo throughout the program today. 800-941-SEAN is our toll-free telephone number as we continue. All right, as we're joined by Jay Sekulow, he is the chief counsel for the American Center for Law and Justice and a counselor to the president. I think we have to ask ourselves if we believe in our constitutional republic, if we believe in equal justice under the law, if we don't, if a court is lied to and certain key facts are withheld from a judge in the obtaining of a FISA warrant against an opposition candidate, the judge never heard in this case that it was bought and paid for, this information, by Hillary Clinton and the DNC. I'm sure that would have had an impact on the judge's thinking. It was first, as you pointed out, denied in early July of 2016. My question is, how do you now undo this mess, and how do we get to the bottom of all of this? And for those people that did commit crimes, did purposely mislead a court, those that are involved in wanting to spy on opposition party candidates in an election year and willing to lie to get there, what should happen to all these people?
Well, number one, I really think that this is where you have to have a special counsel. There's never a justification for a special counsel. This would be it, because this goes to the heart of the FBI and the Department of Justice, including its leadership.
Who should appoint that? Jeff Sessions?
Yes. And they have rules and regulations upon how that is done. He's not said he would do that. He said he's evaluating it. But this takes it up a notch. And I think you now have a situation where, look, I think that the Inspector General, from everything we're gathering, has done an incredible job. When they couldn't find those 5 months worth of missing text messages, and they were blaming Samsung, that Inspector General, he got them in 24 or 48 hours. Mm-hmm. So I think that report's going to be coming out in the next, 2 to 4 weeks, and I think...
Well, the Inspector General, this has all been referred to the Inspector General earlier today. I'm not sure if you got that news yet.
Yeah, no, I did, and that's fine. But I just think that it may need more than that, and I actually do think it needs more than that, and that's where a special counsel to evaluate this, because this was statements given to... I don't want people to lose the fact that these were statements not just made in the air, not just a policy statement. This was before a foreign intelligence surveillance report.
We'll have more with Jay Sekulow on Hannity tonight. I think the biggest corruption, abuse of power story in our lifetime. Jay, thank you for being with us. We appreciate your insight. 800-9